Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 28th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Becky Greenwald, and I want to thank Don and Kevin for stepping in for me the last few weeks while I was away. So, you know, in January, one of my Rotary factoids in the buzz was about how supporting the environment officially became Rotary's 7th area of focus back in 2020. Of course, we know that joins peacemaking and conflict prevention, disease prevention and treatment, water, sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health care, basic education, and literacy and community economic development. And in honor of our guest speaker today, I thought it's time to bring up something else about our new area of focus on the environment. And since January, Rotary International has announced that they have a partnership now with the United Nations Environment Program. And of course there's an acronym, UNEP, so I'm going to call it UNEP. And that is to safeguard freshwater sources around the world. And these efforts support countries in monitoring, protecting, restoring, and just better managing their freshwater ecosystems and sustain local water base. So we're talking lakes, rivers, wetlands, and groundwater aquifers. So this new partnership with Rotary International brings Rotary members expertise in mobilizing volunteers, which is all of us, with the technical guidance of the UNEP individuals to make long-term environmental impacts through sustainable development, climate, biodiversity, and other global communities. And when I was looking all this stuff up, I always have to see, well, what did Paul Harris have to say that might be appropriate? And I noticed there are all these two quotes that he said that had something to do with believing in the power of your dreams and never give up. So he was really emphasizing the significance of unwavering commitment, is how I interpret that. But one that really caught me and that the Edmonton Northeast Club posted and attributed to Paul Harris was, perhaps dreaming is not so bad if one dreams good dreams and makes them come true. So I always think, what would Paul Harris think today if he saw all these things that Rotary International and all of you as part of our organization make happen around the world. So that's my buzz for the week. I hope you enjoyed that little environmental tidbit. And now I'm going to ask Randy Worth to come up and share a moment of his inspiration and lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance and the 5-way test. Randy.
Thank you, Becky, and fellow felons.
Whoa, where have you been?
My focus today is on the 5th leg of the 5-way test, is it fun? And this Sunday is Easter. And some of my memories about Easter is going to church and sang out of the hymnal. For those of you of a certain age that don't know what a hymnal was, because it's all on the screen now, a hymnal was a small phone book that was inside a shelf thing on the back of the pew ahead of you. There was 500 songs in that, and your piano player knew 40. And if you wanted to start an argument in the church when they replaced those, is the cover is going to be green, blue, or red. And that was significant arguments. Anyway, I discovered that there are hymns that match some of our occupations or people that you may know. And so hopefully this is fun. And if I offend someone, let me know, because it was really easy if I did. So, for the dentist in the crowd, your hymn is Crown Him with Many Crowns. Harvey Freeze, you here? There he is. Here's your own, Harvey. The weatherman's hymn, there'll be showers of blessings. Contractor's hymn, how firm a foundation. You know any tailors? Holy, holy, holy. The politician's hymn is standing on the promises. I didn't make these up. The IRS agent's hymn, I surrender all. The electrician's hymn, Send the Light. The realtor's hymn, I got a mansion just over the hill. The pilot's hymn, I'll fly away. Paramedics hymn, revive us again, relieve us again. The judge's hymn, almost persuaded. The waiter's hymn, our wait staff here, fill my cup, Lord. The librarian's hymn, whispering hope. Our mail carrier's hymn, deliverance will come. We just don't know when. The nurse's hymn, rescue the perishing. Telephone operator's hymn, my grandma was a switchboard operator one time. She says, Jesus on the main line. Any fishermen in here? Fisherman's hymn, shall we gather at the river? Any golfers? I got nothing for you. Actually, golfers golf because they don't get enough anxiety at work. So I wanted just a little tidbit of seriousness. Today is the last day that we'll meet in March, which is Women's History Month. And over the month, we have learned through the media, and Becky has told us about women of importance in Rotary. But right now I want to focus on ladies in our club. Some of you have written your legacy and are still out supporting it, and others of you are creating it. I want, from my own personal experience, and I think I'll speak for others too, that how much benefit I get from your participation when I get to sit at a table next to you. We have you are an outstanding group of individuals, and it is just an honor to learn of the things that you're interested in, the skill set you have, and how all of you are giving beyond what your jobs are. But you have a hymn too, and for in my mind, that is how great thou art. Now, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the five-way pass.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun?
Meet and greet.
Hey, I told you last night, I enjoyed that. Scott, good to see you.
Thanks, Randy.
Hey, Scott. How are you, sir?
Short job, Randy. How are you? Yeah, right.
What day is the 27th? Saturday?
With the library.
You can write it down. Where's the basket?
Like throwing me off.
Okay, no worries. I appreciate these. Thank you.
It's an honor. I knew you were saying that.
chatter and buzz going on in the room. We have several guests that I'd like to introduce today. I ask each of our guests to please stand when I call your name and remain standing, and we'll give a nice round of applause and welcome everybody when I've got everyone standing. So first, welcoming Eric Braun, Parks Manager, Polk County Conservation, and guest of Rich Leopold. Ryan Clutter, Chief Technology Officer for the Iowa Cubs, a guest of Carter Smith. Karen Dwan, I think on page, geez. Karen Dwan, guest and spouse of our new member, Tej Dwan. And Douglas Haas, visiting Rotarian from the Daybreak Club in Cedar Rapids. Welcome, everybody. Okay, it's tumbler time, so please consider donating $5 if you don't have a dollar sign on your name badge, which means you've given your amount for the year. And even if you do have one of those green dollar signs, you can always throw a $5 in there just in case, because we send all those monies to our own Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation, and thank you for your continued support. So where in the world is Club 27? Catching up on some spring breaks, lots of traveling, lots of tan faces out there in the crowd. But here we see that Jason and Heather Stuyvesant and their kids were in Mexico enjoying some great music and a good time in the sun. And I was in Peru with Susan Judkins and her sister and my daughter. We had a wonderful trip and enjoyed the sights and didn't get altitude sickness. Tanya Wenzel is pictured here with her two high schoolers, Gabe and Luke, on spring break at the western rim of the Grand Canyon, and she says it was cold in Arizona. So, remember, you can check out these little signs whenever you're gonna go somewhere, whether it's far or local. Take them with you, take a shot and send it in to Kitty. We'd love to know where you've gone and like to go with you. It's just a lot of fun for us. And so now I'd like to ask Carter to come up for his announcement.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I don't know about all of you, but my bracket is busted. I had a little too much faith in the home team, Craig Bulldogs. I thought they'd go a little further. I shouldn't say this, but I think I might jump on the Iowa State bandwagon. 9 o'clock tonight? Well, we'll see if they can do it. But anyway, so we're launching a new game this year, fun contest within our club, Tournament Madness. Now, what is this game? We're playing on March Madness, of course, the next few weeks. But it's really a way for us to engage as a club and maybe even invite some of our friends and peers to our club as well. So we're going to use a little tournament style to have two teams compete against each other. Jason's here today. Melissa's also here today. I want to thank them. They're going to lead our two teams. We're going to invite all of you to participate. If you are willing to participate, we'll have you join one of these two teams. Watch out, you might have Jason or Melissa try to recruit you. But it's really simple. We're really looking for folks in the club to maybe post about the club on social media, talk to Rotary about your friends, maybe invite a friend or a peer to one of our upcoming meetings, and even maybe we'll have some new members from this process too. So over the next 5 or 6 weeks, we're going to tally up some scores and have these two teams compete against each other, crown a winner in early May. So we'll have a trophy for them, maybe a small prize for the winners. And we're going to invite all of you to participate. Over the next week or so, we're going to open up a sign up for y'all to have a chance to sign up, and we'll have some more information via email on how we're going to score this thing and the launch of the game as well. But sincerely appreciate both Melissa, both Jason for their participation. Excited for the game tonight. Go Iowa State, right? Yeah.
And just so you know, Kitty and I also have these little referee shirts, so we're going to be helping with determining who the score breakers are. Okay, so now I have an announcement to make on behalf of Jason. And April 27th is Dia del Niño Day. We're looking for volunteers to sign up from 9 until noon. That's Saturday, the 27th of April at Union Park. It's a great time to be out there and supporting our club and supporting the Des Moines Public Library. And sign-up sheet I saw is out by the name badges. So if you can make it, that'd be fun. It's a nice day. Okay, and now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our newest members, Tej Dwan. Tej is a Strategic Initiatives Officer with Principal, and he was sponsored by Steve Jacobs. So thank you for inviting Tej. So he knows what's up. We asked him 5 questions, and he says he verifies that these are his answers. So here we are, 5 fun questions about Tej. You've got a free day. What would we find you doing? I'll be found reading or engaged in my Duolingo lessons. Currently reading 2 nonfiction and 1 fiction book and learning the Scottish, Gaelic, and Spanish languages. Oh, there's more to uncover here. And where in the world have you traveled and can't wait to go back? That's easy. The Hebridean Isles, did I say that right?
Yes.
Hebridean Isles, north and west of Scotland. Got a little theme going here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Save half of everything you earn. Solid advice. Did you do it?
Most of
Okay.
yes.
And what talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people? I was allowed to learn and teach fitness classes at the Des Moines YMCA. It remains the most fulfilling job I've ever held. The classes are set to music, and I don't know music. I had to be taught the basics of beat.
True.
That's good. So we're not asking you to be a drummer in our
Please
band.
don't.
Okay.
Please don't.
And you're joining Rotary. What can't you wait to tell your friends about our organization? The world is vast, and I just found another window through which to see it. That's great.
Thank you.
Anything you want to say?
I love changes in life. So the one factoid that I'm strategic initiatives officer for Principal is no longer true. Yesterday was my last day at Principal, so back to the entrepreneurial lifestyle and supporting startups in our community.
Well, that's wonderful. Don't go away quite yet. And so I got to know Tej about 10, 15 years ago, and I just realized last month that I've been pronouncing his name wrong. And he never told me until now he got it right.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Thank you. So originally, Tej is from New Delhi, India, and came to the U.S. as an undergraduate, getting his degree at Central College in Pella, where he also knew Kitty, and you also knew Kitty, right, Karen? So he's married to his classmate, Karen, from college, and now they have 2 children. One of them is working in LA, and the other is a student at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. Tej remains connected to his alma mater as a member of its board of trustees, serves on the boards of EMC Insurance, the YMCA of Greater Des Moines, Bravo Greater Des Moines, and the Community Foundation's Finance Committee. So you're truly a person with a service heart, and I'm so grateful that you decided to become a Rotarian with our club.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tej. And now I would ask Rich Leopold to come up and introduce our guest speaker. Rich.
Thank you for that tepid applause. So I'm really excited about today's speaker. As a naturalist and ecologist, and it's springtime though, I got to give you one quick joke, okay? So you see the geese that are arriving back in the springtime here, and you see them when they're in their V formation. And have you ever noticed how one leg of the V is usually longer than the other leg? Do you know why that is?
More geese on one
There's
side.
more geese on the other side.
Oh,
Yes. You were expecting some magnetic renaissance of the moon or something. More birds over there. All right, into my main job here. Thank you. Thank you. I get the applause now. I had just met Kelly Norris, although I know we know a lot of the same people. And Becky, thank you for that environmental introduction today, too. I have his official bio here. He is one of the leading horticulturists of his generation. In his practice, he explores the intersection of people, plants, and place through ecological, site-specific design and art. An award-winning author and plantsman, Kelly's work in gardens has been featured in the New York Times, Better Homes and Gardens, Martha Stewart Living, Fine Gardening, Garden Design, and numerous television, radio, and digital media appearances. His forthcoming book, Your Natural Garden from the Cool Springs Press, launches in late 2024. And a few things Des Moines ties. So he used to work at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Gardens, just across the river over there, as the Director of Horticulture and Education. He has a background in landscape ecology. He's part of a new startup called the Public Horticultural Company. I looked it up. one of the sentences on that website said, "We want to normalize wildness alongside modern everyday life." Oh, you have my heart, right? Henry David Thoreau, one of my favorite quotes is, "In wildness is the preservation of the world." So without further ado, Kelly Norris.
Well, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you all here today for a few moments to share a little bit about what we're up to out there in the community and the world. I note that the comments today are called "The Future of Urban Planting," and you will take note. I'll tell you a little story about that image there. So, and I can see where that photo was taken, just straight over the bridge down there. When I was the director of horticulture at the Botanical Garden, I was prone to staying there late because I love the sunsets actually from that part of town. And so sometime in the middle of the summer, maybe about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I was out poking around the parking lot, as I was prone to do, and I had my camera with me. And I took note of the fact that while most of the planting on that bank of the street of Robert D. Ray Drive that runs into the parking lot, it's where it's supposed to be, I was more interested by this strange little edge where they're about 6 inches wide between the sidewalk and the curb. And you'll notice in the photo, it's where the most color is. It's strangely where there's suddenly this little explosion of diversity and forms. And I thought, that's really interesting, that's really cool. And I took this photo and then I went home. And I didn't think a whole lot about it until a few years later when I was working in an urban project, and I realized that there's something to be said about kind of the edge of our environment and the edges of places and what they mean for the kinds of vegetation that we see. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in the slides to come, if I can make that work there. You've heard just a little bit about me. I'll skip my usual spiel about it just to introduce myself through my work a little bit. I get to work all over the place doing a lot of different things. If there's one question that you take away from my time with you today, it would be that the same question I pose to many of my clients and stakeholders on projects on which I work, which is, how do we want to live with the landscapes that we live and work in? How do we want to live with the landscapes that we call home? We have a strange and restless relationship with vegetation in our world, and I get to explore that dynamic on a daily basis. I often tell people the plants are the easy part. It's these damn people that are sort of strange, kind of get in the way of a lot of things. And so one project that we've had the opportunity to work on in a highly cultural place in the community is at Simpson College around Blank Performing Arts. Any Simpson alum out here? I've heard that this was quite a sledding spot for students on lunch trays, perhaps, that might have been stolen from the food halls or something. And so 45-degree angle slopes, it's a pretty notorious slope around this building, some of which I learned was natural, some of which was actually influenced by the construction of the building in its 2 phases, the original Pope Theater and then the addition that was made in 2011. At any rate, in 2021, we were approached by the opera celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2022, and through the work of good community partners and donors, we were able to pull off this half-an-acre planting around the Blank Performing Arts Center that installed in 2022, and that's 1 year later after we were done. So perhaps a dramatic example of our work. We work across the spectrum in terms of both sizes of projects, where they're at, public and private places, as well as across the spectrum of vegetation, things that are definitively more horticultural, as well as things that might look a little more natural and sort of wild. There's another image of coming into the east side of the building there at Blank Performing Arts, showing one way, perhaps a provocative alternative for what otherwise for 40-some years has been a turf grass monoculture, and probably the source of a great number of workmen's compensation claims for people mowing a 45-degree angle slope. So nobody's going to be traveling down that slope any longer on a riding lawnmower, but instead they get to pass through this verdant vegetation that calls to mind a glimpse of Iowa's natural history as inspired by not only the past, but perhaps as a version of the landscape, an analog of it that we could look to in the future. And so, but I'll tell you, I mean, I go from one example to that to this image here. I take as much inspiration in my work from highly horticultural places and famous gardens as I do from road cuts in the mountains of Colorado, for instance. This is just near Breckenridge. I'm fascinated by roadsides. I'm fascinated by places that most people wouldn't think of to go looking for something beautiful. And because in fact, much of our world is full of these places, whether by intention or by accident. And so I'm increasingly interested when working in urban places in how this notion of disturbance in ecological terms can come to inform the vegetation of the places that we live and work. And so something of a roadside story here. Having grown up a farm boy in southwest Iowa, went to Iowa State for 2 degrees in horticulture and ecology. I spent a lot of time in wild places, a lot of time in the car, driving around, chasing wildflowers, you might say. And it's interesting, you tend to find, as noted in that curb cut in the Botanical Garden parking lot, that out in the world, a lot of vegetation, a lot of diversity happens along places like roadsides or railroad right-of-ways, for instance. And this sort of idea, this kind of observation has come to the mind of more than just me, but a French landscape theorist named Gilles Clément notes what he calls roadsides a sort of fragment of the planetary garden, the last little edge of something wild and natural that's coming to meet the world that you and I have created for our species, the habitats that we have made for ourselves. And so it inspires a great deal of thinking, because in America today, not so recently, after cultural and economic turmoil, we have a high degree of vacancy and abandonment in urban space. We have a lot of vacuum in the urban ecosystem that is sort of being filled by who only knows what with respects to vegetation. And so it calls to mind an opportunity, I think, in thinking about how to activate landscapes differently. In Iowa, we talk a lot about glaciers as part of our natural history, but perhaps the modern glacier is something more mechanical, that in fact the amount of disturbance that we daily invoke on the surface of the planet is fairly consequential to the creatures that we share it with. And so I increasingly find myself, when I'm out in the field, which I try to spend about a month of my year if I can between now and usually the first frost, exploring and trying to understand plants better in wild places. I'm increasingly drawn to places, like roadsides, glades, in this particular instance in Bona, Missouri, places that are harsh, kind of forlorn and awful, and using that as a precedent to think about how can we adapt the plants that are pre-adapted to these harsh places, to the landscapes of the cities that we live and work. A little more closer to home and outside of the realm of a naturalist's daily life, this image I think strikes most of us as being pretty normal across much of the US today. We live in the urban century, and while geologists may still not agree about what to call this period of time geologically that we're in, Anthropocene or otherwise, it's hard to deny the fact that humans have an outsized and consequential role in the ecology of the planet as we know it. The thing about cities that's interesting is that when you add it all up, cities don't necessarily cover a huge amount of land, but they extract a consequential amount of resources from all of the rest of the land to support life as we know it inside that relatively tiny footprint. We know there are some benefits to having humans living densely in cities, both for our own economy and social structures. There are perhaps some ecological benefits to concentrating the most intense of human activities into one place, but it calls to mind then what kind of environment and habitat are we creating for the places that we live and work in, and that's something to consider, particularly as more and more of the country becomes urbanized. This image here too, I think, underscores a pretty harsh reality, and something I have to chuckle about every time I hear about somebody complaining about parking in Des Moines. We're blessed with it, actually, by urban standards, to a level of more stalls per capita than we probably actually need, all things considered. And so that is to say, there are acres and acres, tens of thousands of acres, even within our region, that are currently sitting underneath asphalt and hard surfaces that are not sequestering carbon, that are not supporting the lives of creatures that we share the planet with. And so the question is again, back to a matter of relationship. Do we want to live with concrete and asphalt, or do we want to live in some more conciliant way with the landscapes that we live and work in? And so, in so many ways you could think of that cities are really gardens of the future. They're already gardens today. In fact, there's a consequential amount of research that has highlighted that despite all of the things you've just heard, cities are not deserts, ecologically speaking. In fact, they're becoming refuges for a great number of creatures that no longer have the same kind of habitat that they once did further beyond it. And so, in fact, it's actually quite important for us to think about engaging and diversifying the landscapes of the cities that we live in, because there's a great amount of life living here with us in our midst that we should not only celebrate, but be very much aware of. And so this question of vacancy and abandonment was something that I recently had the chance to explore, which sort of propagated, I think, coming to speak with you all today when Susan Judkins reached out to me, was a recent project we did with a featured exhibit at the Philadelphia Flower Show, in which we got to explore this idea, admittedly in a somewhat artistic way, for 10 days of the world's largest flower show and horticultural exhibition in Philadelphia. Also the country's longest running show, 195 years this year, of horticultural exhibition happening in Philadelphia. They didn't even miss one for the pandemic. They took it outside for 2 years and then brought it back in this year to the Pennsylvania Convention Center. And so when we were invited last summer to concept the exhibit, we were asked, what we might want to look at. The theme of the show this year was called United by Flowers. And if you've ever spent any time in cities like Philadelphia or Detroit in particular, in the last 10 years, or at least since the Great Recession, and perhaps especially so in just the last 3 or 4, the rates of abandonment and vacancy in urban real estate has increased dramatically. Within 3 blocks of the Pennsylvania Convention Center, you could walk by acres of abandoned lots in the middle of center city, Philadelphia. It's kind of striking and shocking in one sense, and has no singular cause, by the way. The issue about vacancy and abandonment is sort of multi-pronged. It's economic in some cases, it's sociological in others, but it all leaves the same result, a kind of vacancy of space that leaves people wondering and choosing to think about their identities, about the places and the neighborhoods that they live and work in. And so we had a chance to pull together a series of concepts from places around the world to imagine how we might elevate and give prominence to the issue of abandonment and vacancy, and maybe shine a light on the life that was actually already there. Because we tend to think of these places as blight. We have words like that we use that tend to conscribe them to a particular category of emotion or feeling. And yet, these places are actually home to a great number of pre-adapted creatures that are just as happy to thrive when we're not paying attention. And so perhaps there's an alternative, a way in which to meet life at the edge and celebrate its existence. And so we looked far and wide for a great number of precedents to inspire our thinking. You see a series of images here from all over the place. The High Line, an empty parking lot east of City Hall, here in town. A great number of places in our very midst that can inspire this idea about how a floral transformation could perhaps inspire a new way of thinking about not only our communities, but the communities of creatures that we share our ecosystems with. And so through an exhibit we ended up calling A Beautiful Disturbance. This was our rendering, was part of the media launch last fall. We had the chance to, across about 1,500 square feet inside the convention center, build a vacant urban lot and appropriate it with a great amount of diversity. You'll see some images here from what that ended up looking like. To give you just a quick little rundown on the details, we wanted to create as rich of an atmosphere as you might expect inside the urban environment. So all of the materials that were used in the exhibit came from Philadelphia or the region, and it all went back to those places when it was done. So it had as modest of a footprint as we could muster to still do it. We found a local, of course, source for concrete blocks, CMU block there along the side. We rented chain link fence. We went and scavenged for galvanized steel panels that were rusty. We got to move in 5 3,300-pound bin blocks. Call a concrete company and say, I need to rent 5 3,300-pound bin blocks for a flower show, and it's an interesting conversation that follows. But we had the chance to, with about 36 species that were custom grown for us by an organic greenhouse operation that we know in Bucks County, just north of the city, to show what was possible. We won gold for our efforts, along with a pile of other hardware, for essentially showcasing weeds at the Philadelphia Flower Show, which perhaps was a little provocative, and maybe we're still catching a little flack about that, but we're shining our trophies while we're hearing it. So the opportunity, I think, was interesting, not only just to go through the process and build it, but was to be a wallflower for the first opening weekend of the show, to watch people react to this. and to watch people identify with various aspects, whether it was the dead tree that we found and placed in the middle of the exhibit to sort of signify, the cycle of life that happens, pretty briskly in urban space. This is an ephemeral moment, right? I mean, no urban lot is vacant forever. It's a kind of a fleeting moment in time. Fortunately, for most of these plants here, we're depicting something that is, fairly fleeting. Most of these things are annuals or short-lived, all things considered. So they live very showy, gregarious lives before they, set seed and retire. And so, it was interesting to watch people, react to not only the plants, but also just the sheer kind of volume of what they experienced. A lot of people said, this kind of thing exists in my neighborhood. It's just not this pretty. And so, it inspired, I hope, people to maybe think differently about the places that they drive by and they think less of, perhaps. Maybe now they'll think a little bit more of and think maybe there's an opportunity here to celebrate not only human connection in a place that is abundant in many cities, especially like Philadelphia, but also to think about what it could be beyond maybe what it is today. And so, this work is interesting. It's propagated an array of conversations inside of Philadelphia. We've had a couple of inquiries in places outside of Philadelphia about how do we activate something like this, and how do we take this as a model for how to think about perhaps developing landscapes in areas that may be in transition. Every developer, at some point sits on a parcel of land for more than a few seasons at a time, and in the meantime, it just sort of sits empty. And what happens there besides, getting mowed every 2 weeks or something, and weed whacking when it needs it? Why not celebrate that sort of ephemeral transitional moment, redirect the resources that we're otherwise applying to it in that moment towards something that has ecological and community value, that ticks the boxes, even if it's a relatively short-lived and ephemeral thing, all things considered. So, this is one example of the work that we're doing and that we're trying to inspire. There were a lot of found objects throughout the exhibit that you had to sort of hunt for and find. Again, was helping to create a sense of the atmosphere that people would encounter. So, that we leave you with the question today, where do we plant our next beautiful disturbance? Disturbance can look like a lot of things, and we get to do a great deal of work across the spectrum of different vegetation types. And so whether that's in public or private space, we're very much interested in engaging communities in conversations about how our landscapes can look and function differently. So on that note, would love to stay in touch and hopefully have some time for some questions here today. So thank you so very much for
Do you have any thoughts on why we don't see more landscapes that look like this around our communities, and why the default seems to be sort of a symmetrically placed shrub surrounded by mulch and chemically laden lawns that are beautifully green?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
The question was, do I have any thoughts about, why we have a different kind of default in our landscape for how we approach it? And I think there's a couple of reasons. I think, one is, the economic thing. I mean, people look at something like blank performing arts and say, yeah, but I mean, that's a consequential sum of money to render something like that. And the honest fact is yes, it is, but the other reality is that if you look at how those costs of investment relate to the costs of management over time, the trade-off is pretty clear, and that, we have research to support this actually, that by about year 5, the cost of investment, which is no doubt more than the cost of traditional landscaping, is outweighed by the savings of the fact that you're partnering with plants to create a functional landscape. And so you're putting plants in the lead in a way, which is maybe requires some suspension of disbelief, right? That we typically see landscapes, I think, in our communities as sinks for resources, as something that has to be cared for. And I think it should be cared for. I think we should quantify and value what care looks like. But I don't think that immediately means that it's more resources. In fact, my favorite exercise to do when I just had a call about this yesterday, when a public horticultural or a public park institution calls me and wants to explore the possibilities, the first thing I ask them is for a budget sheet for the resources they're already spending and apparently not getting results on, because that's why they're calling me. So it's like the resource allocation relative to what we're investing and what we're getting out of it is almost always a source of opportunity to explore how we just, with different ideas and just different knowledge, come to expect a different result. So I think economics is sort of one piece of it, because I think people make assumptions about what they see. But I think the other thing is also, how do we want to live with the places we live and work? And you know, we get out of landscapes what we put into them. And the reality is that landscapes actually have a great deal of opportunity to support the vibrancy of the meal that we had today, for instance. We don't have to connect the dots in a room of learned people like this today, but we have to connect the dots, though, I think, in a greater conversation when it comes to making policies and how we spend public and even private dollars towards even places as seemingly feral as the hell strip along the streets that we work in. I mean, we sometimes don't give plants much of a fair shake in terms of where we like to put them, i.e. street trees in this community. Again, if we embrace the circumstances, we can think about them differently when we put plants in the lead first. So,
Thanks.
Great question. Yes, ma'am.
I have seen you at the Art Center, but my question, you mentioned Missouri. Have you done anything at the famous gardens there connected to the zoo?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Those are wonderful.
Yeah, no, I mean, Missouri is actually, I grew up a mile from the Iowa-Missouri border, so I on the Iowa side, I will clarify, but Missouri is actually, as a sister state goes, is a state that actually is, has led the nation for a long time in conservation efforts. The Missouri Department of Conservation is maybe one of the more model organizations at a state political level for how conservation can happen. Part of that just has to do with Missouri as its topography. It's a state that had less opportunity for the kind of agriculture that we've created here in our state. And so a lot of land was spared initially in Missouri and was fast-tracked for maybe more conservation activities than it has been in Iowa. So I spent a lot of time botanizing in Missouri, actually, so I appreciate that question. Yes, sir.
Is it too late to plant hollyhock seeds?
Oh, not. His question is it too late to plant hollyhock seeds? No. I mean, you could easily start them now and still set them out probably in about 8 weeks after the last frost. Yep. Yes, sir.
If you had no constraints, like what area in Des Moines would you want to focus on and provide your services? Do you have a specific area? I spent 8 years at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden, and so I was. I can't help but sort of look out the window right now and see the green space along the river that runs, right through downtown. And there are certainly a great number of, plans and activities, I think, in the scope of what the River Trails Project is doing in the region. And so I would point to that generally speaking, but what I would say is that I think, as Rich and I were talking about over lunch, there's a great opportunity right now in the world for people who work in horticulture, people who work in in conservation and ecological things to sit down and have conversations around how we can do both, right? Like actually the ecological complexity part of what we do is the easy part. It's very easy in some sense to initiate habitat. It's a lot harder to create habitat for a great number of other creatures that people can relate to and find beautiful. And it's the bane of what I do. I mean, there's plenty of art in the world, for instance, that is not beautiful and is not supposed to be. It's supposed to confront you. It's supposed to arrest you or upset you. But gosh darn it, when it comes to landscapes, if it's not pretty, it's not good. It's a strange standard. It's a strange standard aesthetically speaking. And yet that's the world we live in. So how do we embrace the opportunity in what might seem like a kind of, a landscape that has a mind of its own, right? I mean, we have some pretty rich history and not all that many years where we've had, a reminder that the landscape has a mind of its own with respects to flooding and whatnot. And so, somebody out there may say, well, I want to invest a lot of money in a landscape that's just going to get flooded. And I would ask, why not invest money in a landscape that can be flooded and that can actually pick up and keep going, perhaps with a nominal amount of investment compared to the hundreds of millions of dollars that we've spent on creating flood resiliency in the wake of, frankly, engineered activities over the last 100 years. So that's my answer. When you started the answer, it was start a question with if you had no constraints. That's send me off on a. I just want 5 places in 5 different climates to keep gardens. I don't need much.
So obviously we know that our Kentucky bluegrass lawns isn't the way to go, but a lot of us still have them.
Sure.
How much truth is there to the movement towards no mow May?
Well, no mow May. This question is that look, we've got that's a fabulous question, and I'm thrilled to answer it. The question is about what merits are there to no mow May, and what do we do about the fact that we still have lawn, by the way, in terms of its inputs, is the #1 most irrigated crop in the country, and it feeds precisely nothing. It's a gross expenditure of resources that just it benefits nothing more than our sociological temperament of having open green space. And I have nothing against turf, actually, at the end of the day. It's not the plant's fault, right? I mean, it's not the grass's fault. It's our relationship with it. You know, turf should be an area rug, not wall-to-wall carpeted, right? I mean, you know, we have way more of it than what any of us need. But kids need a place to kick a ball. We need a place to have a barbecue or picnic. We shouldn't take, you know, turf grass out of the picture. It's just subbing for a proxy for a grazed meadow. We've just taken it to the extreme. So, you know, the problem with No Mow May as a movement is that, first of all, it's like, and I didn't even hardly talk about it today, but place plays a big role, context plays a big role in how we think about these things. No Mow May originated in the UK in a completely different circumstance, an island flora, highly diverse island flora, right? That's been under human habitation for, you know, 10,000 years. And so to stop mowing a quarter-acre parcel outside of London is going to yield very different results than not mowing a quarter-acre parcel here in Des Moines, whose history primarily with respects to what's happened on that quarter acre has probably been lawn for 50 years at this point. Like, there is no deep well, there's maybe 10 native species lurking still in that seed bank. There's not 50. So the context is the problem, right? And so what happens in our neighborhood when No Mow May happens is that the 3 houses to the north of us that have basically a lawn of dandelions then, you know, let dandelions go to seed, and the half-acre meadow, prairie, sand garden, and, you know, we have an 800 square foot turf path on a half an acre. Everything else is in vegetation at our place. All that dandelion seed just blows over into my habitat, which isn't certainly helping very much of anything. So I think it's about context, right? I mean, No Mow May is about the laziest way we could go about creating habitat. I mean, if it's created awareness about it, and if it's brought up a chance to have a conversation about it here, cool. There's just so much more we could be doing. Just have less lawn to begin with, regardless of how many times you mow it in a given season. So, anyway, great question. Yes, sir.
I plan this spring to take a significant portion of my backyard and do native plants and grasses and so forth. And any sources or recommendations that you would have, or I could go and study this a little bit?
Well, there is, you know, I'm not supposed to make a sales pitch, but there is a book that a guy wrote that to what you are looking towards. But yeah, I mean, you know, a great resource I think in the Upper Midwest that, you know, is you know, for plants and seeds and a lot of great information is Prairie Moon Nursery up in Winona, Minnesota. You know, great folks there, and a great supply of a number of things that could be valuable to what you're trying to do. And I think that's wonderful. So, great questions. One more. Okay.
I was at the Philadelphia Flower Show and your exhibit was fabulous.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
And what struck me is your exhibit and all the others, the plants were all in perfection. How do you get that and manage that?
This is, you know, the narratives that come out of the exhibit are one thing. The production of the exhibit is horticultural theater, right? So, you know, that was an intense 10 days or 9 days leading up to the 10-day show. All of those plants were grown for us locally in the region, and so I mean, we're on a concrete floor, right? We have to build everything. We have to, you know, do volumetric calculations to bring in soil to set inside and import this, and then you know, plant each of these little things and kind of fuss them and, you know, make them look like they just sort of landed there, right? And so it's there certainly were very long days leading up to the day in which you probably saw the exhibit. So it was great fun, but it was a lot of work.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm inspired to go dig in the dirt and get some of that nature going. So, thank you, Kelly, for your very interesting and informative presentation and the work that you do for our environment. And I want you to know that as a token of appreciation for your time here today, we've donated a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Library, and your book will become part of the Rotary Rosie Leader Van collection that travels around Des Moines, giving children opportunities to read. Upcoming meetings, we got lots going on as usual. Remember, Anytime you want to bring a guest, you are welcome to come and RSVP, but do so before 9 a.m. on Wednesday before the meeting on Thursday. You cannot register your own guest online, so you do need to call and let Kitty know so that we're ready for our guests to welcome them properly. And think about someone you can bring to Rotary who might be interested in one of our keynote speakers and could make a great addition to our club. So next week, April 4th, Matt Karstens with Landis Agricultural Cooperative will be sharing insights on their business. April 11th, Jennifer Catherine King with Invictus Media. And on April 18th, look forward to our local scholarship awards, always a highlight of our club. I want to thank you all for being here today. You're a vital part of what makes Rotary Club of Des Moines the great club that we are. Tej, we're so glad to welcome you officially as part of our club. Nice to meet you, Karen. All of our guests, welcome to come back another time. We hope we see you again. Maybe I'll visit you in Cedar Rapids. And until we meet again, let's get out there and have fun and do good on the behalf of Rotary. So we are adjourned.